start
This
again.
is the cursed first episode.
Hello and welcome to my first, or our even first such video, which is intended to complement my Facebook page, which is called What's Going to Kill Us First, which isn't intended to dwell on negatives, but to explore just how the human race will survive the range of crises that are heading our way. And I'm not disregarding the urgent issues affecting all of the other species that we share the planet with, but all solutions will obviously have to come from the humans, although we can certainly learn from nature in the process of doing so. It would also make sense for me to have vids in some sort of order of preference, but that's never going to work when you're bipolar. You may as well play whack-a-mole. I thought I was first going to be introducing what I've been calling automated transport networks that would greatly improve efficiency at the road level to generate large and tangible improvements in CO2 emissions. I had looked for other work in the field, but I didn't use the keywords smart cities, which would have shown me that smart tech is being devised and built to create such networks, such as in Taipei in Taiwan, Palo Alto in California, and I think maybe Warsaw and Dubai have stuff in the works as well. I was going to spend some time looking at how the hell the data would be managed and filtered, streamed, analysed on a massive scale in real time, but it looks like IOTA, blockchain cryptocurrency, will be handling that. And IOTA, that's it's Internet of Things. Is it algorithms or whatever the A stands for? That'll be handling that, at least in those cities I just mentioned. But no, anyway, today I'm instead talking about the US Democrats, including Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and environmentalist Bill McKibben.
Well, just to add a balanced note of fairness here,
Yeah?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the policies that you're talking about are before Ms. Cortez was elected.
It's what she's supporting now. Her office supports.
Yeah, but you can name any bunch of Democrats, really.
Well, yes, but I'm.
Those are just the most well-known Democrats right now.
It relates to this a particular piece which I found in Forbes, which had been shared by a friend of mine, and it's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or AOC. She's a Democratic Congresswoman from New York. But Bill McKibben and Bernie Sanders are from Vermont, and some of the stats from it relate specifically to that. But you might be right that AOC's face is
it's just everywhere at the moment.
It's so popular to associate it. But she is personally, her office is endorsing the Green New Deal, and I'll come to. I'll come to the reason for mentioning that. To my mind, that's so important is that they're presenting the Green New Deal as some sort of energy roadmap, and it's particularly important that it doesn't mention nuclear power, and that's important because there's no way any energy mix can meet the demands for power while simultaneously bringing emissions down to an acceptable level without nuclear power, unless you live in Button, which is a different joke entirely.
or nipple.
Or indeed nipple. But let's look not at the United States now, but Germany partly, and Japan. But as a nation, Germany freaked out over Fukushima. It identified that nuclear was dangerous and that theirs should be phased out as soon as possible. And what they didn't see was another nuclear power station in Japan called Onagawa, which, despite being closer to the epicenter of the massive earthquake, it suffered very little damage because it had been built to a higher standard, slightly higher in height above sea level, and had a seawall that performed admirably. The local town of Onagawa was largely destroyed, but the power station stood strong. And what led to the disaster at Fukushima Daiichi was that the admittedly insufficient backup diesel generators were kept in a basement that flooded. And just like Chernobyl, it came down to incompetence, and not about a sudden raised inherent risk of nuclear power itself. And as a direct consequence of Fukushima, many reactors around the world gained better seawall defences where applicable, and better generators being installed up and out of flood risk. I think one of these was Duke Energy's Brunswick plant in North Carolina, and it made the news because, oh my God, it was in the path of Hurricane Florence. So that's interesting right there. Nuclear was only news because of how it might be affected by a massive weather event. Once the flood waters receded and staff could again gain access to the site from the outside, the media was no longer interested in the story, except for S&P Global. Cheers, guys. Meanwhile, Germany, which I did start off speaking about, isn't known for its exposure to tsunamis, but it decided to invest massively in renewables, and I think solar in particular, but they lack the storage backup, and this is probably where my argument might be. If someone wants to rebound it against me, it might be on the subject of
Tesla
of storage.
They've already rolled out the Powerwall.
Yes, but I'm still talking about Germany and German emissions, and it still largely applies. Much of the solar potential is unusable. Down to lack of storage, and not to mention its intermittence. And rather than reconsidering the role of nuclear, they plump for Old Faithful to plug the gap, which is dirty old brown lignite, and suddenly the shiny public transport no longer looks so clean. I've got a cat. Hello. German emissions are now significantly higher proportionately to that of France, where nuclear makes up around 75% of the portfolio. Oh, and the big coal mine can be seen from space. It's that big pale brown thing about 20 kilometres west of Cologne. So, nuclear provides concentrated energy, unlike solar and wind, for example. Power without the need for a constant stream of fuel, unlike many millions of tons of coal arriving on trains or pipelines for oil and gas or even biomass fuel. Power 365 days a year, 24 hours per day, possibly for decades, without requiring maintenance or whatever. Power without CO2 emissions once installed, and without any of the dangerous particulates generated by diesel cars, coal power stations or jet planes. Fewer deaths per kilowatt hour, and lower environmental impact than any other form of energy. Yes, nuclear power has had some spectacular fails, but even they fail to add up to much when you compare it to other forms of power generation. And the figures certainly to back that up. Finally, nuclear power enables vision. With major expansion of today's nuclear, we can not only nail the energy without CO2 problem, but we can also do so much more. And I'll be coming back to this in another video. But back to the reason for this show was that according to a Forbes article that my friend Gabriel shared, the state of Vermont, which is Bernie Sanders' land, has been amongst the top 5 states for what it calls aggressive action on energy efficiency. In 2005, Vermont legislators promised to reduce emissions by 25% below 1990 levels by 2012, which is obviously 7 years ago, and 50% by 2028, which is 9 years from now, through the use only of renewables and energy efficiency. So what's happened since? Well, Vermont's emissions have risen by 16.3%. That's more than twice as much as national emissions rose during the same period. And when you account for the US's far faster growth in population, Vermont's per capita emissions rose 5%, while US per capita emissions declined by 17%. So what kind of new Green Deal is this? CO2 emission reduction must be the key driver. I mean, what planet are they on? The problem is nuclear, or the problem's not having nuclear. Now, who's going to be the one to tell them, and how do you make them listen? And well, I'd like to thank Zach for the making of this video. Alex was here earlier, but it's all a bit late now.
Yeah. Is that still recording?
And
Don't press anything.
I don't know. It's not. It's not visible, so it might have knocked off.
Oh, thank God for that. Still recording.
Right. Well.
Yeah. Sorry. We'll cut this out. I wouldn't worry about that. We
what
can,
is it?
we can edit this out.
Is there anything else? So yeah, there's what's the name of the cat?
Pudding.
Pudding. Pudding.
No
Right.
G. Just Puddin.
Right. And I think because Pudding's name has been mentioned, she's back again.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'd like to thank Zach, Pudding, and well, get this on to Uncle Doris and perhaps Rangers. We'll see what happens next. If you enjoyed the video, great. If not, you might wish to say why, or I don't know.
Okay. So
Any feedback's nice.
I'll just check this out with you. So I'm going to invite comments.
Yes.
If you disagree, or
Yes.
you agree, or whatever, or you have something else you want to add to that, please put it in the comments down below.
Yeah.
We will try and respond to those comments in a video. Like in the next video, we'll read out some comments from the previous video.
Yeah. Well, like's done in the Corbett report, which I
Yeah.
really like.
Also, this show might actually go to a point where we can actually, we've got the technology and the hookups to actually have people on the show from a remote location,
Yeah, it can be done.
like a video call.
Why not?
So what we'll do is we'll try and set that up if somebody wants to be on the show. It's entirely opt-in. We'll obviously have to organise it around people's time schedules because some people are on different sides of the planet. But, you know, that's an option, then that's
Yeah.
what we're keeping open. So if you desperately want to be on there, that'll be for the spur for us to sort it out and set it up.